David Pakman. Bias, moderately progressive. Yeah, I'm starting out with a progressive who is generally far from the middle, but I asked a few leftists who they thought was actually center-left or moderate at all, and this was the only one that they mentioned that I could agree with. So, I'm starting this list off with a compromise in the spirit of the centrist/moderates. Null Plumb. Bias, no-nonsense, left-leaning atheist. Originally, I was going to go with Steven from Rationality Rules, but why not go with the older version who has committed less rhetorical sins in his lifetime? Despite being an atheist, he entertains and warns the dangers of believing in certain gods, being most gods, and brings much of that same debate to the Brexit issue. He's from an older generation of YouTubers and is generally fed up with the recent trends in political YouTube market. That's probably why his last video was about beer, something to take the edge off. Karl Benjamin, Sargon of Akkad. Bias, king of the centrists with air quotes, pro-Brexit UKIP candidate. Why, being dubbed the king of the centrists over a year ago, I think joining UKIP and running for office takes him out of running for that title.
Look what you done.
But even if it was a meme, his campaign against the SJWs is sort of balanced by his crusade against the alt-right, and in my opinion, that makes him balanced enough to make this list. Nuance, bro. No, scratch that. Not popular or moderate enough. Let's go with John Stossel. Bias, libertarian, moderate. This man is the archetype of libertarian. Socially left, fiscally right. Sorry I don't have anything funny to say about him, besides the fact he seems convinced that the market can solve everything. He's a solid reporter or journalist, depending on how you define it. I lean towards more reporter, but that's besides the point. Who has been on the scene for many years, from doing undercover work on bad business practices to slowly coming to terms that the laws created to combat them did very little to actually do anything. The bad business practices. Dave Rubin. Bias, classical liberal. Formerly of the Young Turks, this gay man has broken out of his shell to become a liberal shill for the right.
I guess? That's just something people say. I don't really believe it.
Dave will talk to anyone of any noteworthy success, and as Freedom Tunes meme,
I agree with that.
PSA Stitch and Adam Friended. Bias, left and right combined to create Captain Centrist. I felt I had to put these two together because of how incomplete they seem to be without each other. Stitch, while smart and funny, seems to have his head in the clouds, while Adam's everyday indecisiveness on a range of issues seems to balance each other out quite nicely. Both are Jordan Peterson fanboys, but don't hold that against them. Their views appear more solid and nuanced than JP, meaning you can actually make literal sense out of most of the stances they put down. Tim Poole. Bias, anti-extreme center-left. This journalist, or former journalist, depending on how you look at it, tends to attract moderates first, conservatives second, and a few anti-PC leftists out there. While his head might not be filled with luscious hair, it has many years of experience covering events such as Occupy Wall Street and then with Vice News media company instead of a high school education. His modernness comes from his hatred of authority and distrust of big money media, because that is practically the only thing he knows about outside of skating. He would be higher in this list if he didn't use the same bullshit tactics that all the big media companies seem to be so fond of nowadays. J-Reg, or however you say that name of his.
J-Reg chair.
Bias? Anti-centrist? Since J-Rag claims to be anti-centrist, which is every political opinion outside of centrism, including Nazis, communism, and the equivalent of right or left in the libertarian liberal sphere, they would cancel each other out and thus make him the ultimate centrist. This inclusion in the list is to ensure that he won't be able to weasel his way out when one or all the streams come for the centrist. We'll burn in hell together. Joe Rogan. Bias, left, let's all get along pot smoker. Going from far-right personalities like Alex Jones to Bernie Sanders.
So I heard this statistic. What? Who are you?
You have to admit, Joe does not have much of a bias when it comes to who he talks to. I don't know if that's due to his drug use or his enthusiasm for fighting or even his interest in conspiracy theories, but he's probably one of the most open-minded personalities on the internet, even if it comes off as a little crazy at times.
You're going to find the edge of the world, big ice caps, cats that are knocking things off.
I'm going to film the drop-off with my iPhone.
Counterarguments. Bias, seeing both sides of certain issues. Why this might be an odd pick for this list? Counterarguments deals with many political issues and topics. Unlike the rest, he doesn't really look at things from a political point of view.
I'll ask you the standard question. You know?
Standard question.
I think this is fake.
You think it's fake?
But rather a logical and rhetorical analysis of his various subjects. The closest he came to politics is him clueless to why him talking about Ben Shapiro got anyone angry at him, and him dunking on the rhetoric of the recent Dem debates. Number 1, Philip DeFranco. Bias, middle of the road, frankly undecided on most issues. This beautiful bastard is known for certain centrist phrasing like, let's talk about it. And he doesn't take a side unless there's a clear-cut garbage human being or beings in the mix. If he has a bias, he hides it very well. I halfway thinks he does it for the money. That niche market for moderates is a vacuum. That would put him more on the right, with basically peddling the status quo for cash. But then again, he spouts various leftist mentality and recently had a vasectomy, and that seems like a rather cuck leftist thing to do. So overall, I'm undecided on that matter, and theorizing on it makes this rather boring man in my mind a little bit more lively. But you still gotta respect the balanced view that his online persona brings to the YouTube marketplace.